Peter Beattie, a U.S. professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, criticized the so-called Summit for Democracy hosted by the U.S., pointing out that the U.S. talk about democracy and human rights is pure cynicism.
On the one hand, you have the lofty rhetoric from U.S. leaders about the ideals of democracy and human rights, and the moral imperative of implementing these ideals. But on the other hand, you have the historical record of U.S. government support for allied dictatorships, violations of international law, meddling in other countries' elections, supporting and co-organizing coups against elected leaders, and so on. How to explain this glaring discrepancy? If I were viewing this from abroad, the explanation would be that all the talk about democracy and human rights is pure cynicism. That U.S. leaders know full well that they are creating a smokescreen to hide their true goal, which is maximizing power at all costs.
He added that the U.S. government applies double or even quadruple standards to other countries to serve the goal of maintaining its own hegemony.
You've got one standard for subordinate allies in which democracy is nice, but largely irrelevant, and another standard for countries that fail to subordinate their policies to Washington's diktat. But in their minds, this isn't the vice of hypocrisy, it's a virtue. Because in their ideology, any other potential hegemon would not be as beneficent as the US. Hence, the United States' primary responsibility is maintaining its hegemony, even if that requires sacrificing secondary ideals like democracy and human rights.
Noting that the world faces pressing issues such as climate change, the expert called for an unprecedented degree of cooperation among world powers.
I would advise forgetting entirely about this shambolic Summit for Democracy, and focusing attention instead on the summit we desperately need, a summit of all the world's countries to make human civilization sustainable long-term,